Airlines aren't in the business of flying you somewhere. They're in the business of selling the same empty chair to as many different types of people as possible, at as many different prices as the software can get away with. The plane is just the thing that has to happen afterward. Once you see it that way, every weird rule about your ticket suddenly makes perfect sense. And there are a lot of weird rules. Here's one to hold on to because we'll come back to it. On plenty of routes, a one-way ticket costs more than a round trip. Same plane, half the flying, higher price. That is not a glitch. That is the whole system working exactly as designed, and by the end of this, you'll know precisely why. Start with the problem the airline is actually trying to solve. A seat on a plane is the most perishable thing you can sell. A grocery store with unsold bananas can mark them down tomorrow. The moment that plane door closes, an empty seat is worth exactly zero forever. It can never be sold again. Hey, so the airline has one job: fill every seat and get the absolute maximum out of each person sitting in it. Here's the catch. Different people will pay wildly different amounts for the identical chair. A consultant who has to be in Chicago Tuesday morning for a meeting worth $50,000 will pay $800 without blinking. A college student visiting her mom will pay $120, and if it's $140, she takes the bus instead. So the airline faces a genuinely hard question. If it prices every seat at $800, the plane flies mostly empty. If it prices every seat at $120, it fills up and it loses money on every flight. Neither works. Let's do the math, because the numbers make it obvious. Say a route costs the airline $20,000 to fly. 180 seats. Price everything at $120 and you sell out, that's $21,000. $600. You made $1,600 for flying a jet across the country. Price everything at $800 and maybe 40 people show up. $32,000, but you flew 140 empty chairs. Now split it. 40 business travelers at $800, 140 regular people at $150. That's $32,000 plus $21,000, $53,000. Same plane, same fuel, same crew. More than triple the profit. That's the answer. The airline doesn't want one price. It wants every price at once. Which brings up the obvious problem, and this is the actual clever part. If two prices exist for the same seat, why doesn't the consultant just buy the $150 ticket? He'd love to. He'd be an idiot not to. And if he does, the whole thing collapses. So the airline builds what the industry calls a fence. A fence is a rule attached to the cheap ticket that a business traveler cannot or will not accept, but that a normal person barely notices. Here's the trick. The fence isn't about the seat at all. It's about who you are. The airline can't ask you how much money your trip is worth, so instead it builds little tests and lets you sort yourself. Book 21 days ahead? Cheap. But the consultant found out about the meeting on Monday, so he can't. Willing to fly out at 6 a.m. with a 4-hour layover in Denver? Cheap. The consultant won't because his time costs more than the savings. Non-refundable. No changes? Fine for the student, her plans are her plans. Not fine for the consultant, whose meetings move constantly. Willing to stay over Saturday night? That one's the oldest fence in the industry, and it's beautiful because it's really asking one question. Are you traveling for fun or for work? Almost nobody flies to a business meeting and hangs around all weekend for the fun of it. Every one of those rules is the same question in disguise. Not how much is this seat worth? How much are you worth to us? Which finally explains the one-way ticket. A round trip with a Saturday night in the middle is fenced. It's practically shouting vacation, so it gets the low price. A one-way ticket carries no fence at all. Anybody can buy it at any moment for any reason, which means it's the ticket a desperate business traveler buys at 11 p.m. So the airline prices it for that person. You're not paying for half a trip. You're paying for the absence of a fence. And now the software. Every one of those fenced prices is a bucket with a limited number of seats in it, and a computer watches those buckets constantly. Bookings running ahead of normal for this Tuesday? Close the cheap bucket, the plane will fill anyway. Running behind? Open more cheap seats. An empty chair earns nothing. That price change you saw between Thursday and Saturday wasn't the website reading your mind. It was a bucket closing, because 40 strangers you'll never meet booked before you did. So when you're wedged into 24B next to a guy who paid a fraction of what you did, he didn't outsmart you. He just answered the questions differently. He walked around the fence and you walked straight through it, and the airline was happy either way because it was never really selling you a flight. It was selling you a category. The plane is just the thing that has to happen afterward.